The sky is perfectly clear again this morning, and the Matterhorn, at nearly 15,000 feet, towers over the village of Zermatt. It's one of the highest peaks in the Alps, and it's an amazing sight, especially on such a clear day as today. Zermatt is a popular spot for skiers and mountain climbers. The mountain was first climbed in 1865, and this ended in disaster when 4 of the climbers fell to their death. Since that time, another 500 climbers have died trying to reach the top, and many are buried in the cemetery behind this local church. Most of our group is taking the gondola up to the Kleiner Matterhorn this morning, but we did that several years ago when we were here on the Italy trip. So we head downtown to look around and do some shopping. Due to the extremely high prices, our shopping trip was not very successful. So after a nice lunch, we decided to follow this stream for a ways. Before long, we come to this trail that leads up the mountain. We follow the trail for a ways, and then we get a nice view looking back down the valley over the village of Zermatt. As we climb, we get lots of photo opportunities. As we climb higher, we run across this small herd of sheep. This is a view across the valley. If you look closely, you can see a train moving across a bridge on the far side. The trail becomes too steep for us, so we have to head back down and call it a day. The sun is glistening off the mountain this morning as we head off to Lugano, Switzerland by way of Stresa, Italy. To get there, we cross the Alps by driving over the Simplon Pass, a really beautiful drive. As we reach the top of the pass, we stop for coffee and time to look around. This is such a pretty place here on top of the mountain, so after a cup of coffee and a good piece of pie, we take lots of time to look around and shoot some photos. Then we begin the descent into Stresa. It's a really scenic drive as we head down the mountain. We arrive in Stresa, located on beautiful Lake Maggiore. The group is taking a tour to Isabella. We've been there before, so we spend our time shopping and looking around in the market section of town. Then we're back on the road to Lugano. We arrive in Lugano and check into our hotel. Then we leave for our evening cruise on Lake Lugano. It's a really nice evening for a boat ride, and we get a nice cruise around this very beautiful lake. We arrive at the little fishing village called Gandria and have a really nice dinner with our friends at the Ristorante Roccabella. Then it's back to the hotel after another great day. We're up early this morning as we have a long ways to go today. We're heading to St. Moritz with a few stops along the way. The reason Jeanette's so happy this morning is we're about to tour a chocolate factory. We get a nice tour showing how they make the different chocolates, and then Jeanette buys about $40 worth of chocolate to take home, some for gifts and some for ourselves. Our next stop is in Bellinzona to see the three castles of Bellinzona. This is Castle Grande, the first of three castles located here, and the one that we will visit. It's located on a rocky ledge overlooking the city and valley. From Castle Grande, we can see the second castle, called Montebello, a little further up the hill, and then still higher up the hill is the third castle called Sassocoberro. The castles were protected not only by the castle walls, but by these huge walls and towers that they built around the city. This is the square inside Casa Grande. The castles were located here as several key mountain passes meet here, and this was a popular trading route that ran all the way to Venice, Italy. Whoever controlled these castles could control the flow of trade and collect the taxes and tolls. Here's another wall extending out from the other side of the castle, and this wall and towers would have surrounded the old town of Bellinzona. The walls were hollowed out so that horses and riders could ride inside the walls to the various towers. We're back on the road again, and we'll be driving over the Julier Pass in order to get to St. Moritz. Lots of mountain scenery along the way. We stop at an overlook to view this picture postcard setting of this little village deep in the valley surrounded by these gigantic mountains. We stop at this small country store and cafe at the side of this small lake. It's really a pretty setting. There's a small village behind the cafe. The fields around the village and the cafe are covered in what appear to be dandelions. Back on the road again as we are approaching the Julier Pass. We see a lot of colored streaks in the snow as we come over the pass, and Carl tells us that this is sand from the Sahara Desert that is picked up and carried here by the jet stream. And we finally arrive in St. Moritz. It's been a long ride, but it was well worth it as the scenery was fantastic. We're lounging around the hotel this morning, waiting for the bus to take us to the train station. We're taking the Berninia Express to the town of Poshaevo this morning. It's a very beautiful and scenic ride up over the mountains and down the other side again, with several short stops along the way. As we come down the mountain, we see Poshaevo, located in this beautiful green valley, surrounded by tall mountains. A small mountain stream winds its way through the valley. What a pretty place. We leave the train and walk into town, crossing over the small stream. There's not a lot of activity in town and not too much to see. We walk around for a while, grab a pastry, and then head back to the train station where Rudy is waiting with the bus to take us back to St. Moritz. Arriving back in St. Moritz, we decide to skip lunch and explore the town. Most of the town is pretty much shut down, as this is not prime season for this area. Very few shops are open, so we really aren't exposed to what is supposed to be the glamour and glitz of St. Moritz. We walk down to the far end of the lake, and then walk the lake shore coming back. We get some really nice views of this beautiful setting by the lake, with all the snow-capped mountains surrounding it. Jeanette and I have a very nice dinner across the street from our hotel, and then we call it a day. Today we are lounging around the train station waiting for the Glacier Express. We have a fairly long way to go today, so we'll be traveling most of the day. We're taking the Glacier Express from St. Moritz to Andermatt. There we'll travel by bus the remainder of the way to the town of Interlaken. But before stopping there, we'll travel out to the Valley of the Waterfalls before returning to our hotel in Interlaken. We get settled in for a nice scenic train trip through the mountains. We pass lots of small farms and small villages located on the mountainsides or deep within the valleys. We have lots of great views of lush green valleys and tall mountain peaks as we climb higher and higher. When we reach the top, we have to wait for a train that is coming up the other side of the mountain before we can proceed down again. We descend into Andermatt, which is located in this picture postcard setting. We board the bus and drive the remaining way to Interlaken. We have to go up to Lucerne and around as the mountain passes here are still closed and don't open for another month. Instead of stopping in Interlaken, Carl decides to take us out to the Lauterbrunnen Valley, which was on the schedule for tomorrow. This is a beautiful valley, just over a half-mile wide, surrounded by tall mountains that suddenly drop off into this very deep valley. It's known as the Valley of the Waterfalls, as there are over 70 waterfalls that cascade over these nearly vertical cliffs into this small valley. It's really a very unique place and a very, very beautiful place. The most unique waterfall in the valley is the Trummelbach Falls. Instead of tumbling over the cliff face, this waterfall cascades down the inside of the mountain itself. To see it, we walk through a cave inside the mountain, right along the waterfall. The river is roaring through here as it tumbles over 10 waterfalls within this mountain. It's really interesting, but also a little scary as it's extremely loud, it's really dark, and it's also really slippery. Then it's back to town where we have a really nice, enjoyable dinner with the group at the hotel. It's been another really great day. Today we are taking the Jungfrau Railway to the Jungfraujoch, one of Europe's highest peaks and often referred to as the top of Europe. We'll be up around 12,000 feet. To start the journey, we take the bus out to Grindelwald, where we'll board the train for our trip up the mountain. You can get a better idea of where we are going by looking at this map of the mountain. We switch to a cogwheel train about halfway up the mountain, which then takes us up to the top. On the way down, we switch back to the regular train and then come down the other side of the mountain. When we get off the bus, the mountain is clouded in, and we are told that trains are not running as there are 80-mile-an-hour winds blowing across the mountain. We wait around for a couple of hours and then are told the winds have gone down and we can proceed. Lots of nice views as we begin climbing higher and higher. As we get higher up the mountain, we are quickly above the tree line and into the snowfields. We arrive at the train station located about midway, and here we switch trains for the ride to the top. From here on in, the route becomes much steeper, and we pass through several tunnels before reaching the top. We walk through a long tunnel and take an elevator up to the observation platform. The wind is really blowing up here, and it's icy cold, and the clouds are moving in and out very rapidly. It's a complete whiteout on one side of the platform, with intermittent views down the mountain off the other side. It's too cold to stay out here very long, so it's back into the tunnel to see what else is around. We soon come upon this ice cavern that is carved into a glacier that flows down the mountain. They have lots of different ice sculptures in the cavern. No, these aren't ice sculptures. This is just us. It's very touristy up here, with several restaurants and gift shops and lots of people. So we're ready to get back on the train and head back down. We switch trains again at the midway point and head down the other side of the mountain. It's another really scenic ride going down this side of the mountain with great views everywhere you look. Great views everywhere you look, but the best view of all is of the village of Wengen, nestled in this narrow valley between these huge mountains on both sides, with a waterfall cascading into the valley at one end of the village. What a great sight! It's been a great day as we come to the end of the line, but it gets even better as we get back to the hotel and Carl treats us to a glass of champagne. Then we are off to Hooters for dinner with Bob and Marla. Today is the last day of our tour, and we are allowed to sleep in before we hit the road again. We are driving back to Zurich this morning with a stop off at Brienz. Brienz is home to a woodcarving school and museum. We get a really nice tour of the museum and get to see some really fantastic wood carvings. The detail on some of these carvings is absolutely amazing. After the tour, I stop for a rest while Jeanette takes a few more pictures. Then it's just a short, scenic drive back to Zurich. We stopped briefly at Lake Zurich before heading downtown. It's near lunchtime and the downtown area is extremely busy. We explore a few stores, find something to eat, do a little people watching, and then it's time to head to our hotel and get packed up for our flight home tomorrow. It's been a really great trip. The food was good. We saw some really amazing sights and met a lot of really nice people. We really had a good time. And to top it all off, we are having a farewell dinner with all of our new friends and fellow travelers. As we say goodbye to all our new friends, we prepare ourselves for a long ride home.